All right, Curiosity Cast, episode 12. Here we go, Dylan. Hit me with the
Let's
questions.
do it. So, you say calcium is good
Yes.
for potential inflammation, bringing down some inflammation.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So,
what would you, okay, yeah, good.
yeah, so the reason behind that, and then you just keep drilling me. But the
Hmm.
reason behind it, because we were talking about skin before we started recording and estrogen and the importance of vitamin A for skin, which is why I was saying to watch or to read Dr. Ray Peat's book, Nutrition for Women, but he'll talk about retinol. That's vitamin A. Beta carotene is not vitamin A. You have to have B12 with that. So typically, if you have beta carotene with a red meat, it kind of turns and it'll convert. But when you're having a beef liver and oyster, really important to get the retinol. And then the calcium, because a lot of things skin related and hair related, I would argue a lot of hair loss, male pattern baldness is not DHT. Because a lot of women now are losing hair too. It's more common, like the women alopecia and thinning hair in women. And what you see in the women who have thinning hair is their skin quality does not look as great, or they have really dark circles, and they're also way less fertile. A lot of people have fertility issues, men and women, and typically people who are bald, they're losing their hair, are also not fertile. They go hand in hand, and fertility. This is goes back. I'm reading Kate's book right now, her second book, Better Energy, but it goes back, right? You need FSH and LH. So you need follicle stimulating hormone, you need luteinizing hormone. And to have those hormones created, you need proper thyroid function. And if you don't have proper thyroid function, or how you would not have proper thyroid function is estrogen dominance. When estrogen is dominant in the liver, then the T4 cannot get converted. And a lot of the T4, over 40% of the converted T4 to T3 happens in the liver and the kidneys, and estrogen can take hold there. So that's really important. And then obviously digestion too would be a massive thing for skin because again, if you have bloating, if you have constipation, if you have any of these things, which is why I mentioned the raw carrot salad, really, really important because that's antimicrobial is going to help get things out of the system, that insoluble fiber that doesn't ferment in the gut. And if you have a low thyroid function, your bowel movement's going to be moving a little bit slower. So how to circumvent that and get things kick-started is to have things that digest faster and pull that estrogen out. And as the estrogen gets pulled out, then it stops blocking the thyroid. As the thyroid starts working, then bowel movement starts to improve, hair starts to get thicker, skin starts to look better. Because again, a lot of acne is just not having enough of a high metabolism, enough heat where you'd actually kill off these different things on the skin that are supposed to be washed off, right? You have a fever to kill off infection. This is why body temperature is really important for metabolism. So if you don't have an adequate temperature or high enough skin, a lot of times you can get skin conditions because of a slow metabolism. And then calcium is really important because calcium reduces parathyroid hormone, PTH. And a lot of people will have struggles. Parathyroid is connected to your thyroid, and parathyroid PTH dominance will then eventually lead to slower metabolism. And a big thing with that is skin issues, also heart issues, because metabolism from the work of Dr. Broda Barnes is extremely implicated in heart health. But again, calcium is an anti-stress hormone. Estrogen is a stress hormone. Thyroid is an anti-stress hormone. So how do we try to improve thyroid? Is we give yourself and give your body hormones that are not stressful and actually very helpful. Calcium would be one of them. Sodium, salt, same thing, sodium chloride, salt, and then sugar. Those are all really helpful.
Hmm.
So boosting that calcium is really helpful. And a lot of times you want to make sure if you're tracking on chronometer, you'd like ideally a 2-to-1 ratio of calcium in the phosphorus or phosphate, at least a 1-to-1 ratio. And if not, sometimes calcium can get leached from the bones and then lead to that inflammation. And again, if you have inflammation, then you have estrogen dominance. And if you have estrogen dominance, now you have poor skin. So that you can see everything's connected. And it's just trying to figure out what, it's like you're a freaking big boat, a ship, and there's a hole somewhere and the water's coming in and you're trying to figure out if there's one hole, two holes, three, and you're trying to plug them up. And what I'm trying to explain is there's many different ways, there's kind of different plugs you can use and then figure out which one works. Does that make
Hmm.
sense?
Yeah, it does. I was looking into it, and calcium was a big thing. But what would you say for her, or for anyone who knows that they should be getting in more calcium, but they are taking a medicine or feel like they are dairy sensitive individuals?
Yeah, they're
Um,
hypothyroid. Almost everyone who is lactose intolerant is hypothyroid because they have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, SIBO. So a huge symptom of slow metabolism, hypothyroidism, is lactose intolerance. This is
mhm.
speaking from experience. Most clients who are like, oh, I can't digest milk. That's like a telltale sign that, again, you don't have the really the motility in the stomach. You don't have the enzymes and things needed, and you have really too much bacteria and not the correct one. How that happens is because your gut's been wounded from having low metabolism, so it doesn't kill off the bacteria that's needed, and then you don't break down the lactose. So how to start with that? I would say
Hmm.
microdose the milk. You want to
Okay.
microdose it. So maybe if she's eating maybe breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then a snack between lunch and dinner, maybe a night snack, I'd probably try to do 1 to 2 ounces of milk with each meal. So just start really low and try to make sure you're not getting a reaction. And if you have
Hmm.
2 ounces and you're like, hey, I feel pretty good, next week go to 3 ounces and slowly increase the amount of your dairy. Now you can also do lactose-free dairy, but I would also try to, you can do A2 milk. That's sometimes a little easier on the stomach.
Okay.
Raw milk's a little riskier. I like it, but it's not always sourced the best. And some people just don't react great to it. So it's like so like A2, with fat, the fat helps you digest it too.
Hmm.
So, for me, like for guys looking to lose fat, I'd like to do low fat milk. But if somebody's trying to improve lactose tolerance, you probably want a 2% milk, 1 to 2 ounces per meal, and start to let your body get used to it. And then maybe do a lactose-free Greek yogurt or something to increase calcium. You can also do eggshell calcium. That's the best source supplement wise of calcium is eggshell. So you can either have your own eggshells, then you can boil them, and you can powderize them, or you can just get it. There's a company called Forefront Health where I get the cascara. They also have eggshell calcium, and then there's one other one. It's on Kate's website from Australia. I forgot the name of it, but eggshell calcium is a great way, and calcium will increase your metabolism tremendously. Really powerful for people who maybe can't take thyroid hormone but want to decrease their
Hmm.
hypothyroid symptoms or stomach issues or estrogen dominance. Calcium is really helpful.
So if you were to stack, because SIBO, been looking into that too. That's another thing that a lot of people have that they don't think. But
Yeah.
with SIBO, you know that you're lactose intolerant. You want to increase your lactose intake. You want to get more tolerant, but you also want to increase your calcium. So it may be to where you can't increase your lactose as quick as you can increase your calcium. It doesn't work because you want to go slow with this, but increase that calcium. Would you say it's more important to get that calcium in early or focus mainly on getting your lactose tolerance better early in the process once you identify that you have that issue?
Calcium deficiency. When you
Okay.
identify a calcium deficiency, which is kind of what we're saying, I would
Hmm.
say you can supplement with calcium, being mindful of still trying to reintroduce the dairy. So, microdosing the dairy 1 to 2 ounces per meal without adverse side effects, um, and then supplement with calcium. Maybe if somebody's in a really, really tough spot, and they probably have SIBO. They probably who knows what else in the stomach. Maybe mold toxicity. That's another one. Heavy metal toxicity. Those are other ones that I've had that people don't realize the significance of. But say like for some reason just 1 ounce is too much, then I would supplement with calcium. And then hopefully as you supplement with calcium, your metabolism improves. And as you address also your gut issues, maybe with an activated charcoal, a taurine, a TUDCA, a milk thistle, and as you improve digestive function, digestive bitters, a lot of times people can't break down lactose because they don't have enough bile acids. So that's another one, and the gallbladder is not working properly. So again, there's so many of these. Blood work
Yeah.
can help, GI map can help, but as you try to, figure out what's the actual issue, then you can try to reintroduce the food if you can't currently. Because as your metabolism increases, you'll notice that you
Yeah.
can consume dairy. But again, it takes time to reintroduce it. Even for certain foods for people, like my brother is reintroducing pineapple. He was allergic to it, has been improving his metabolism, and now he's eating pineapple like all the time. It's on his meal plan. Of probably 20 to 30 grams of simple carbs per meal with he loves pineapple now. So it's reintroducing things slowly, I would
Hmm.
say would be the main thing. But yeah, supplement with calcium, the eggshell calcium, you can do that before you can hit your calcium goals with dairy.
Okay. For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Kind
And
of
see how
getting
it
away
feels.
from, yeah, I think that that's definitely something that is we're going to do. Um, Getting away from that. This is a question I had like 3 or 4 weeks ago when we stopped for a little bit
Hmm.
was you see like keto friendly bread and you see how like you can cancel out carbs with fiber. How does that work? I don't
And
understand how.
you know the thermic effect of food?
Mhm.
how they use that for protein. Whatever 30% of your protein gets burned from the thermic effect of food because it takes energy. I think the argument, and I'm not 100% positive on this, so I'll have to get back to you on it. But I'm pretty sure the argument with the fiber is that it's very it takes time to digest,
Mhm.
given a lot of these are the soluble fiber that ferment, and uh, and then they're taking up the energy, so then they can offset it, or they use like xylitol or other things like the Quest bars you'll see. They'll use these. They're like calorie free, or they cut out the calories from the carbs, but it doesn't really make sense to me. Um, I think those people are. I think it's a lot of a marketing scheme label.
Yeah.
It's kind of like amino spiking. People will do that with whey protein. They'll just spike one amino. This used to be more popular back in the day before they shared what amino acids, but you have a rate limiting amino acid. So if you don't have enough of one of the essential amino acids, then even if you're loading the protein with the whey, you're not going to get the effect. So I think it's a similar
Hmm.
thing being done, and kind of the excuse for keeping the calories under 200 when they're really on your body. If you're eating 2,000 calories from Quest bars and 2,000 calories from whole food, I think you would be much better off the whole food and probably lose
Yeah.
weight much faster.
So that was an issue that I had a lot when I played college football was I was the
Mhm.
guy that was killing protein bars and protein powders and doing all this stuff. And I feel like there was maybe something left on the table looking back at my diet and how I ate. What would you say for a college athlete, a high school athlete who wants to perform at their best but can't seem to keep that weight on without eating like total garbage? What are some changes that they could make in their daily life to keep that weight on and be better for it in the end?
Yeah, you want to reduce the meal size because initially people think I want to gain weight, I want to eat a shit ton. But when you eat a shit ton of maybe food that's not super healthy, guess what? Now digestion doesn't feel good. You feel bloated. You're like, dude, I'm not, I was thinking about it today. Think about in college, probably the guy who can't gain weight, right? You work out in the morning, maybe has a little bit of yogurt before, but probably works out fasted. A lot of these guys do. Banana, maybe, banana, a little bit of yogurt, whatever. Work out really hard, go to dining hall, chow down, pancakes, eggs, chocolate milk, orange juice, super stuffed. Kind of feel lethargic and tired during class, about to take a nap, fall asleep during class. Then maybe lunch at 1 or 2. Maybe get a foot long sub, maybe some chips, maybe a Gatorade, and then super full again, and then dinner, another big dinner. But say these are only 1,000 calories per meal, 8 to 1,200 calories per meal. So now, you eat massive dinner, another 1,200 calories, and then you have maybe a night snack. So at most, you're eating maybe 4 times a day. So my
Mm-hmm.
argument would be, I think still having large meals is helpful, but you don't want them to interfere with your hunger for the next 6 hours because I think, and this is proven through high level athletes, is eating every 3 hours is really going to be beneficial. And eating clean food every 3 hours, you're going to be able to digest it, feel good, and feel hungry. If you're eating chicken or like a lean red meat or a fish with some jasmine rice, some salt, some raw carrot, maybe some cooked mushrooms, maybe some steamed whatever, broccoli, spinach, asparagus, some little bone broth on top, 6 to 8 ounces of meat, 300 grams of rice. You can put that down every 2 to 3 hours easily. Like that's not a very filling meal. And then if you want to add extra stuff, that's where you add the fruit. The fruit is another huge value add. So you're having, 70, 80 grams of carbs from a rice or potato. Now you want to think about too what fills you up.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm helping a client lose weight, I want to give them things that fill them up. I want to give them watermelon, cantaloupe, potatoes, oat bran, things that I know are going to fill them. If I know somebody's trying to gain weight, I want to get things that don't fill you as much. So that'd be like a white rice. That would be anytime I'm getting yogurt bowls in, right? You're not super hungry, but you can still get food in yogurt bowl, a ton of maple syrup or a ton of raw honey, maybe some collagen, some things that are very easy to spike, um, you know, your metabolism, spike the amount of food you can really give you more nutrients and give you more micronutrients, but things that don't fill you too much. Those would be
Mm-hmm.
some of the biggest things, is by spreading out the meals. So having a breakfast at 8, but then having a snack at 10:30, and then having a lunch at 1, and then having another snack at 3, then having a dinner at 6, then having a night snack at 9. And now you've been able to eat cleaner meals and more frequent meals, and you ate more food throughout the day and probably feel better too. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah, for sure. And I think with all this food for a high school or a college guy, do you think that tracking is the way to go for this? Do you think of like a feel system and then let the scale tell you where it's at? What do you think?
I think you can do either one. I think tracking is easier, in a sense of you're going to be able to get feedback pretty quick. And then once you know what your maintenance is at, you can write down, I've got my 4 eggs in the morning, cup of egg whites, oats, fruit, orange juice. You just kind of know what your meals are. But if you don't know your maintenance, again, you don't need to track it. Some of the best bodybuilders of all time didn't track their food. But if you don't know anything about food,
Mm-hmm.
then just trying to feel it out, you're probably overeating your fat. You might be, you know, overeating processed carbs and you might be undereating protein, just an example. Or maybe you're overeating protein, you're overdoing fat
Mm-hmm.
and you're underdoing carbs. You don't really know. And as an athlete, as somebody I help all these guys who are athletes, right? Like approximately a pound of you know, whatever it is, like lean body mass, I'd probably want to do a gram per pound of body weight. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a pound. It depends on the person. Maybe on a low day when they're eating less, losing fat, increase the protein for satiety. But if somebody's trying to gain weight, we don't want fat too high because there's something called the Randall cycle. Now, if somebody has a high fat meal, meaning maybe they had, some processed food or pizza or, 80/20 beef, they have a pound of that with a bunch of rice. The Randall cycle is basically stating that if you're having too much fat with a meal, it's going to interfere with your ability to process and use carbs to create energy. So if you're doing that, then those carbohydrates aren't being stored in the liver, they're not being stored in the muscle, and now you're increasing your risk of storing body fat. So by tracking your food, you can see, okay, I have 100 grams of carbs this meal, maybe 10 to 15 grams of fat, 50, 60 grams of protein, and you repeat that five, six
Mm-hmm.
meals a day. And now you're gaining weight, but you're not putting on fat. And then once you kind of get that system down and you start tracking your food, you realize what foods are fattening and not. Because if you don't track your food, you think steak or meat, you're like, oh, dude, I'm freaking eating high protein, but you don't realize you're eating 100. I've had guys track their food the first few days. They didn't know they're in high school and their fat intake's at like 160, 180. They have
Mm-hmm.
no idea. And then they're like, they see their thresholds at 90 grams or 100 grams, which is kind of high from people I work with. But like, I know for them, it's just they need to reel back. But then once they get it in place, we bump to carbs. And this is an example of a client. He started at 340 recently. Now he's 328 um, in, I think, 5 weeks. And and he's tracking his food on chronometer because a meal plan would just be too much. Sometimes a meal plan, when you like different foods and he's still like, man, I miss my tasty food, but I'm like, what's your goal? It's to play D1
Yeah.
football. It's not to have mouth pleasure every single meal. Now, food can still taste great. Chicken and rice still tastes good. Chicken, potato, or meat and potato, or fish, but it's not going to taste like a, gourmet pizza. Like it's just that's the bottom line. But you've got to remember what the goal is behind what you're eating. But I think when I started tracking junior high school. After the playoffs, we lost. My coach was like, "You got to gain weight." I'm like 230, so I got my fitness pal. I started watching Rich Piana eat to get big, and I started tracking my food. And it wasn't perfect by any means, but I got a framework. And then I would
Mm-hmm.
weigh in my coach's office in the gym, before gym class, and I'd weigh in every day, so whatever, a couple times a week, and I'd figure out, okay, I need to bump my food or maybe decrease it, and then kind of learn as you go. But
Yeah.
I think the tracking can help as long as you're not, you can't be over obsessive about it.
Mm-hmm.
If you miss a day, don't freak out. Don't like stress too hard, but I think it's helpful. And the results, I think, are for the majority of people, you're going to get better results if you track your food.
Yeah, I agree. I think my freshman year of college, I needed to gain weight and I started tracking and I realized that I was not eating enough to gain weight. And then you really understand food and how it works in a calorie sense whenever you actually track. So yeah, I think that that's a good thing for people to know is like the fat thing too. That is huge because you get, especially O linemen, when you're trying to be an O lineman, you're like, I'm gonna eat a tub of ice cream tonight because I'm gonna gain weight. It's calorie dense, but it's so much fat, and then you don't gain muscle. You just get lumpy and soft, and you look in the mirror and you're like, I did what I thought I was supposed to, and you're just not.
And that's the thing about gaining weight too, is if you track your food, I think the likelihood of you putting on body fat is much lower if you're tracking
Mm-hmm.
and you're doing the right thing, not just worried about protein. Protein, I work with a lot of high school athletes or college, yeah, I'm 27, so these guys are young to me. They're 15 to whatever 20, and they're all just like, I'm hitting my gram of protein, but I'm like, there's so much, there's a lot more behind that. And when you track it and you see the fat intake and you start pulling fat down and you start increasing carbs, now you perform better. You increase carbs around your training, maybe even intra-training. You decrease fat around the high carb meals. So if you train in the morning, your fat intake in the morning is going to be a little bit lower. If you train in the evening, your fat intake will be higher in the morning, preferentially. So then you can, play with the carbs because you can
Mhm.
max out some carbs. If you train at 6 p.m. like I am tonight, after my training, it'd be a high carb meal. My higher fat meal is in the morning with eggs and such. So
Mhm.
timing those out because you don't realize it. And then the Randall cycle says, okay, we're going to use fat for energy preferentially, but it takes a while to use it. So we're going to store some body fat from carbs and fat rather than keeping fat intake, 10 to 15 grams. Carbs, start blasting them if you're trying to gain weight, 75 above a meal. And then you perform better. You're storing muscle glycogen rather than storing fat. And now, if you're storing muscle glycogen, you can train harder. You have more energy. Your metabolism is working better. If
Yeah.
you're training harder, now you're gaining muscle because you're increasing your strength. And strength and mechanical tension is how you really give stress to the muscle to rebuild it. And then you're giving the fuel for it to put on muscle. So that's going to be a
Mhm.
higher likelihood of you getting stronger, playing better at your sport, and not putting on body fat. And if you put on body fat, the higher body fat you get, especially as a lineman, it goes to places you don't want it. You have higher aromatization. So now you're converting more of your testosterone to estrogen. Now you've got the man boobs, which every single team you got a lineman who's got man boobs. And it's like that's the worst feeling. You don't want to take your shirt off.
Mhm.
It's like, and that impacts, you know, uh, you'll see those impacts in decreased morning wood, decreased libido. That happens for a lot of people when you try to bulk up a ton. Then you realize you don't feel as manly. So that's something you want to avoid too.
Yeah. Back on the athletes wanting to be better about what they're ingesting, what are some supplements that you think these young guys should be taking, if any, if you think you get it from your diet, but what if there are some supplements you think that these guys should be taking to performance, mental stuff? Just what do you think those would be?
It's a good question. I would say, blood work can be helpful, not always necessary, not always financially feasible.
Hmm.
Um, Tracking your food on an app like Chronometer, you can start to see maybe after 2 weeks, what are you constantly deficient in? Something that would be very common for people is vitamin E. It's an antioxidant. That's going to help with testicular growth. It's going to help with recovery from PUFAs, polyunsaturated fatty acids, which get stored in your body fat for 4 years. So as you're burning body fat, you're actually sometimes can increase your inflammation. It's a stressful state to burn body fat. So I think vitamin E is an antioxidant. That's a very beneficial one. Aside from that, the vitamin D and vitamin K can be helpful depending on where you live, depending on how much sun exposure you're getting, depending on blood work. You want to get like a vitamin D OH25 test, and you want between probably like 60 to 80 would be your value you'd want. Vitamin K2 combines well with that. That's a very beneficial supplement, but it's not always
Hmm.
necessary as well. It can be, again, helpful for metabolism, thyroid related function. It's very helpful for the heart as well. So if heart issues run in the family, I think E, D, K, those are all tougher to get in food. Your B
Yeah.
vitamins, I supplement with B1 thiamine just for thyroid related stuff. It's helpful, but I always hit my B1 and all B vitamins every single day because if you're eating potatoes, eggs, coffee, you're eating a lot of quality food, red meat of some sort, maybe some oats or some rice, and a lot of fruit, you're going to hit your B vitamins. And then oysters and liver once a week, you'll hit your B vitamins. So you don't really need to supplement with those unless you're having a lot of issues. Niacinamide is vitamin B3 that can be beneficial. That can reduce some of the stress you'd get from burning body fat. So if you're in a fat loss stage or maybe your metabolism is low, B1, B3, niacinamide is niacin. It just doesn't give you a flushing effect. So that can be helpful. Aside from that, there's a lot of supplements out there, right? It's just
Yeah.
knowing how to use them. I think collagen or glycine, that's helpful. Glycine, that's which within magnesium glycinate, it's relaxing amino acid. It's anti-stress. So, using a collagen or really a beef gelatin, I think beef gelatin is probably even better than a collagen. This is why everyone back, if you look at like 120 years ago, their menus, a lot of people had Jello. Like that was actually a pretty popular thing. Even like silver era bodybuilders would have Jello. But beef gelatin, that's really important. Again, there's different cuts of meat. Most of the time, we're eating muscle meat, which would be a chicken breast, chicken tenderloin, fillet, a top round, a lot of the fish, right? You're not getting the gelatinous cuts, you're not getting the ligaments and such. And now there's different amino acid profiles within a muscle meat and then within a ligament or chuck roast, which is going to be something with more ligaments. Just like there's different nutrients in a beef liver compared
Hmm.
to a beef fillet. So having a variety of protein sources is important, but gelatin can help with that. It can help reduce stress. It can help you fall asleep before
Hmm.
bed. It can help with recovery, bone broth. Like when I was recovering from thyroid issues, I would be drinking, a quart to 2 quarts of bone broth a day. That was really beneficial because again, if you're having a lot of muscle meat, there's hormones, tryptophan, methionine, and some other ones that your daily value that you need is only like 2 to 3 grams, but you're hitting 10 to 20 to 30 grams worth of those. And they have a lot of the foods. That's why supplements are sometimes not always ideal, is because there's a threshold where if you go too high, now it has a negative effect. And in food, it's tougher to do that compared to supplements. If you spam an iodine supplement for thyroid because people think you need it, if you go too high, you're to get a goiter. You go too low, you're going to get a goiter. You go too high as zinc, now your copper is not going to work. You take GHK,
Hmm.
say you take that peptide, the GHK, and for your skin, and you don't realize you need zinc with it because you're spamming copper. Now you feel horrible. So they all have different effects to them. So those would be important. Aside from that, like shellfish, I'd prefer that as a micronutrient over a
Hmm.
lot of those. Like a lot of there's like thyroid supplements that people use, and it's a combination of selenium, iodine, zinc, copper.
Yeah.
I don't think those work nearly as well as using the actual foods.
Yeah.
Aside from that, you can use things like digestive bitters. I think that's actually an
Okay.
underrated supplement. That's going
Yeah,
to
I've never
help
heard of that.
stimulate. Yeah, that helps. My gallbladder, liver, kidneys have had some issues. I think from thyroid, and then probably taken a lot of pain medicine and Toradol and such back in the day with football.
Hmm.
So they've taken a beating. So anytime if you have floating stool, okay, and it looks normal, likelihood you have low bile production, and the bile comes from your gallbladder, and that means you're not digesting fats well. So how you can increase bile is by taking digestive bitters. It stimulates the release. So if you're having maybe a burger or something with some cheese, and you're like, oh, this always upsets my stomach, maybe you're low in bile. So digestive bitters can help. Aside from that, like if you're trying to improve maybe liver function, sometimes ALT, AST for people is high. Milk thistle can be helpful. For people, if they've maybe abused Tylenol and didn't realize that it's terrible and liver toxic, milk thistle, TUDCA can be helpful.
Hmm.
Aside from that, progesterone for women, I think that's really beneficial. And for men, you just don't want to, for men, overdo it. But progesterone's pro-gestation. It's needed for the birth of a child, and it's 1,000 times its normal quantity in a pregnant woman because it's again needed to create a child. So if you have estrogen dominance, you typically have a lack of progesterone, and that's why when you have estrogen dominance,
Okay.
that's why
Yeah.
birth control is estrogen based. That's why you cannot have a child because too much estrogen does not allow your egg to implant. So, and that kills off your progesterone. So you want to have progesterone. If you're a man and you don't want to start TRT, DHEA, that's important in the creation of testosterone. So that's an important one. That's a neurosteroid. Pregnenolone, that'll increase libido. You can take like 100 to 300 milligrams of pregnenolone a day, and that's also neurosteroids that can help
Yeah.
decreased aging if you're holding a lot of water. Progesterone, pregnenolone, try one of those. Try both of them. I use them both pretty often, but that will reduce. That's in Ray Peat's book. I think it's in Nutrition for Women or Generative Energy. But he has a before and after of his face of like 2 months of taking pregnenolone, and it just tightens up your face so much. Really important hormone as well.
Yeah.
Aside from that, activated charcoal can be really helpful after drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
That's another one. But even if you're having stomach issues and maybe you think of you're having SIBO, that can be very beneficial. Use that. See how long it takes for your stool to turn black. Sometimes it might take like 3 or 4 days initially for me, and that's how I knew I was so backed up because it's 3 to 4 days to get out. It really shouldn't take that long unless you have a slow metabolism. So it can kind of tell you how your metabolic rate is because it's
Yeah.
10 to 59 hours is really your average transit time. So if it's on the longer end, metabolism's slow, and if metabolism is slow,
Hmm.
you might have SIBO. Aside from that, aspirin, I think that's really
Yeah.
underrated. That's one you need to use with K2. You should use with K2 just for bleeding. And funny enough, I've been taking aspirin since I started a road trip beginning of May, mid-May. And now it's June 22nd, and I haven't taken much vitamin K. I have it in a bin right behind me. I have a ton of supplements. I've been lazy. And then I had a bloody nose today, like twice,
Sure.
and it wouldn't stop bleeding. And Kate would be like, Jack, you need to take your vitamin K if you're taking aspirin. But aspirin's really helpful. It reduces estrogen, estradiol, salicylic acid, really beneficial, reduces the stress from losing body fat. I know I'm going on a tangent, but those would be some of the main ones. And then
Yeah,
magnesium too. You can use elemental
that's the what
magnesium.
I was gonna say.
Yeah.
That was so I'm not a huge supplement guy. I'm kind of starting to get into it now because I've been listening to a lot of stuff about the activated charcoal and the funny enough, the copper and what was it, zinc? That's they don't work together. It's the most interesting thing. But anyways, magnesium glycinate, I started taking that at the beginning of the year, and it's just a game changer for sleep, like a total game changer. So I would recommend that if I could recommend one. It would be that
100%.
and collagen. Collagen helped me a lot with I had surgery on my finger.
Hmm.
I think that helped quite a bit with my recovery process and how well it went. So yeah.
Yeah, heck yeah. Any other supplements you like?
You know, I was a creatine guy for a long time. I
Hmm.
know that you think like you talk about how it's not sourced the best from a lot of places. So
Yeah,
I've kind of taken a step back on that, but I think that it can be beneficial if it is sourced the right way for, especially for retaining water. If you want to retain more water, it's really good. And I
especially if
know a
you're low
lot of people
carb.
that take it. Yeah, that's
I,
true.
I find guys who are lower carb. It's funny. Because most people who come to me, I'm like, hey, stop, you can stop creatine, maybe try stopping it. And again, the jury's still out. I'm working with a different coach. Kate's awesome, but I'm working with a bodybuilding coach to learn some more about this stuff now. And
Hmm.
he's a creatine guy, so I'm gonna have to ask him like
Okay.
kind of his stance
Yeah.
on it. Because it's cool to get opposing views and people who use creatine fish oil. Okay, what's your reason? Like, to dive deeper into smart
Hmm.
people. But I think, yeah, it can be helpful. It's gonna help pull water into the cell. And if you're on low carb, you have less muscle glycogen, so you have less water in your fucking muscles.
Hmm.
So the creatine is kind of doing that same effect. It feels like you're full and you got that juice, you got that ATP in the muscle. But if you have enough carbs, if you're a high level athlete, you should be eating like 400, 500 carbs a day. If you're training your ass off and you're in a sport, maybe multiple times a day, you're going to get that effect from that many carbs and
Yeah.
enough salt too. Another supplement, and I'll throw back to you another supplement, baking soda. Baking soda, intra-training, game changer for decreasing lactic acid, uh, increasing recoverability. Progesterone, I forgot to mention too, after TBI, after brain trauma, progesterone and pregnenolone will reduce your water edema, reduce the swelling, and that's really what kills people. Like when I have to work with my fighters, if they get hit in the head, progesterone, it's tough to drug test for hypothetically, but yeah, the baking soda also too, intra-training, and then after maybe an hour after a meal, it can help a ton for going to the bathroom. A lot of times, people who have slow metabolisms, maybe they have not enough sodium, but the sodium bicarbonate, fantastic for helping you go to the bathroom. I didn't realize that used to be like 80, 100 years ago. That used to be like a thing. Used to be like medicinal. Like take some baking soda, go to the bathroom, feel good, and then before bed, it can help you fall asleep too.
Yeah, for sure. I think that the the big thing for me was just realizing how important food was instead of taking all these supplements, how you could get a lot of this stuff out of your food instead of having to go buy a bunch of bottles. Because, I mean, there's important stuff like K2, E, there's stuff that is just not possible to get unless
Yeah,
you're just killing like oysters and liver every day to get it all. But
yeah, and then you
um,
overdo it.
yeah, and then, yeah, the risk first for, or you get the point of no return where it's like you diminishing return or whatever. But I
Mhm.
think for the high school athlete, it's important to hear that kind of stuff to where you don't have to take all the stuff. You can get a lot of it out of your food. So,
Yeah, and if you get a lot of sun, and you're having some grass-fed
oh
butter and some
yeah,
eggs,
yeah, I
if
haven't.
you're getting sun like an hour, half an hour to an hour, try to get shirtless, try to have the most skin you can. Right now,
Mm,
you're probably vitamin D wise, you're pretty much good. And how people used to survive before vitamin D supplementation was everyone was outside very much more. And the vitamin D is stored in your body fat. So then in the wintertime, when you don't have enough vitamin D, it gets released from your body fat. You don't have
Really?
yeah, there's not a toxic amount from the sun. You don't OD. You can take too much vitamin D supplementation, but from the sun,
Mm.
your just body continues to store it and store it. And then in the wintertime, it releases it and releases it. So the more sun you can get now, the less vitamin D supplementation you'll need in the wintertime.
Yeah, I think, and I was going to ask, this was another question I had for you, is about UV and timing up your UV the right way. Because I know that if you're not, you don't want to go outside at noon or 1 o'clock and take your shirt off and just get burned, but you do want to get outside and get sun on your skin because it's so good for you. What are some good times to go outside? And then if you are going to be outside for extended periods of time, midday, what would you recommend doing then to prevent possible diminishing return of that
Yeah,
kind of stuff?
best time it's going to be dependent. Like I'm in New Mexico, it's a little bit stronger than I'm used to in New York.
Hmm.
Um, but in general, time wise, before 10:30 a.m., after 4 p.m., you're going to be safer for prolonged periods, meaning more than a half an hour.
Hmm.
In between that time period, we call it the witching hour when I was a firefighter, and that'd be the time where it's like the fire's going to get epic because it's hotter out and the sun's stronger and the fuel's drier, so things are going to burn.
Hmm.
The wood is going to burn, the grass is going to burn, your skin is going to burn. So in that time period, unless you're darker skin, the darker skin you have, the more sun you actually need. So, like if my friends are, some of them are really dark and black, they can take a lot more sun, obviously, than I can. They still get darker. They can still technically get burned, but it's really hard for them, compared to my Irish German skin. It's different for person to person. Um, but in that period, you want to have coverage, right? If you look at all the people who work in the fields,
Hmm.
um, what do they have on? They have typically long sleeve hats. They're covered from the sun because you don't want to get too much sun exposure. So in those periods, wearing a linen, a cotton, a wool, a non-toxic fabrics because you're sweating. So you want to be wearing long sleeve, soak it up. You're going to sweat. So just accept that. That's part of the game. A bigger hat would be
Yeah.
helpful. Those would be some of the main things I know. That would be, obviously not having polyunsaturated fats. The more of those inflammatory fats that
Hmm.
you're going to be having, you're going to burn much more. I'm speaking from experience. Somebody who used to burn like a crazy amount, and now I took a walk today at 1:30. I usually there's a 2 mile loop, so I took that, and I didn't get burned. I had a
Yeah.
t-shirt and shorts on. A lot of times I'll just do it shirtless for half the walk, so 20 minutes during that witching hour. I'll take shirtless, and I did it yesterday, so I had my tan. I didn't need any more right now, but know your time period. Maybe 15 to
Hmm.
20 minutes you can take shirtless.
Yeah.
So if you're going to a pool, if you're swimming, you're doing stuff like that. Okay, now after 10, 15 minutes, okay, get out,
Hmm.
hang out under the umbrella for a little while, chill out. You can use coconut oil or beef tallow. Saturated fats are going to be better for your skin. So if you put things on your skin that can oxidize with heat and
Hmm.
oxygen, and the UV is going to cause that, you're going to burn a lot easier. So you need to be
Hmm.
careful about what you put on your skin, even the lotions, skin care, skin creams, all that's really important. And then obviously, like I mentioned, the food and then the clothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, even
The last,
yeah,
or
go ahead.
so the last thing I had, some I heard about earlier this week, and I think we may have talked about it before, but muscle meat in relation to, I don't remember if it's inflammation, how muscle meat can maybe be inflammatory, or maybe muscle meat's not the best protein option out there. You've talked about increasing calcium, increasing dairy content, milk for your protein. What value does that have over getting it from a muscle meat, from a lean cut of meat, or from a fatty ribeye? What is the difference in getting it from milk compared to a muscle meat, if there is one?
Yeah, the milk has much less of the inflammatory amino acids like tryptophan, like methionine, like
That's what I
histidine.
thought. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it has much more, and milk actually has a little bit of progesterone and pregnenolone in there, and even a little bit of thyroid hormone. So the milk is very much pro-metabolic. It's got
Hmm.
a great amount of carbohydrates with the protein. So if you're only having protein, you're going to get insulin spike like you would with eating any food, but you're not having any carbohydrates to shuttle. So then it's going to lead to insulin resistance eventually. If you're doing, this is why keto carnivore and stuff can long term cause insulin issues. And they've done starch only diets or carb only diets, and it reverses diabetes because your body knows how to process these things. So
Yeah.
milk has a proper ratio. Obviously, the calcium's huge. Um, and then depending on the milk, it might have added vitamins, which typically is probably not the best. And most of the times, this is what Dr. Ray Peat would say, and what Kate told me. that he said was a lot of the milk intolerance was due to the added vitamins they put in the milk. So when you have milk that doesn't
Hmm.
have any additives, maybe an A2, but it doesn't have the A and D added to it, a lot of times those synthetic vitamins have a lot of
Yeah.
irritability and they cause issues in the gut. That's why a lot of times for the bread, I'm going to do a post soon on food quality. I'll probably do on like dairy and then carbs. But for bread, right, it's they've got all this added like you know B1, thiamine, all these vitamins. But these vitamins,
Yeah.
again, if they're not clean sourced, then they can cause issues and they can be irritable, just like a citric acid. Just like so, a lot of
Mm.
these things, you think are labeled clean and good, or it's got a gum in it, and it can cause a lot of digestive issues. So even a lot of milks, if you look in the gas station, like sometimes we're like, no, I'm gonna get some chocolate milk, and then look at like the Yoo-Hoos or the Nesquiks, and I'm like, dang, they got a million ingredients in here, and it's gonna
Yeah.
jack my gut up. Aside from the sugar, like I'm not even afraid of the sugar. It's like, okay, milk and sugar, that's fine. Cocoa powder, that's fine. And then 25 other ingredients, sunflower
Yeah.
oil and guar gum, and this vitamin, that vitamin, and this preservative, and it's those are going to cause a lot of the issues that people think,
Hmm.
because you're correlating. You might think ice cream fucks your gut up, and then you have Haagen-Dazs, vanilla, and you feel
Yeah.
good because you're used to having, whatever Ben and Jerry's strawberry cheesecake ice cream, and you think like, and
Yeah.
that just has 45 ingredients in it, and it messes your gut up, and you feel like crap the next day. Then you're not hungry for breakfast. Then you skip breakfast, then you overeat, and then that cycle starts.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a
For
lot of
sure.
nuance behind it, but yeah, does that make sense for the milk?
No, it does. Yeah, for sure. I
Yeah. And
think
then,
that's all I got. What? Yeah. What else?
oh yeah,
I'm
I was
all
gonna say,
ears. Yeah.
I was gonna ask too, because it's been over a month now,
Hmm.
maintain basically
Yeah.
the same body fat after losing 55 pounds plus at your highest, probably like 70.
Hmm.
So how's it been maintaining it? And we had to talk about the Mediterranean diet too.
Yeah. So I really just have not been eating PUFAs. I mean, I've just been, I've been eating and then keeping the fats pretty low. They've definitely come up
Yeah, it's
since
fine.
I've been done, but I was pretty low there towards the end. Uh,
We're testing
so
it.
it's been nice. Yeah, it's been nice having some fattier cuts of meat and having some more of that stuff. But honestly, as long as I haven't been eating a bunch of seed oils, like I felt really good. I've been keeping my step count high. That was another thing I haven't really let go. And it's something that I've really been working on ever since I started my job is keeping my step count high, getting
Yeah, how's that
10,000 a
been?
day. It's
How's
been
that
it's been
been?
kind
Yeah.
of tough. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie, especially like so in the mornings. I go to the gym in the morning. I eat the frog, so I'm getting in the gym early, so I
Let's
don't
go,
have to do it
beast.
when I get off work.
Yeah.
And so I usually have like today I had 15 minutes to kill before I needed to take a shower at the gym and get ready to go to work. So I just hopped on the treadmill and just put it as fast as I could go walking. And I think I got almost a mile in. And so I got like 17, 1800 steps in just on the treadmill. And so I rolled into work at like 3K steps because I was walking around the gym. And then also I wake up and pace a little bit before we left. And I get an hour lunch in there. The good thing about being in Northwest Arkansas is there's trails everywhere.
Oh
And
yeah, that's
so,
sweet.
yeah, it's crazy. The Waltons, the Walmart owners, they just build a ton of trails and write it all off on taxes, but it's still dope
Let's
because
go.
the trails are cool. But there's a trail behind my work, so I'll go walk for 40 minutes there. And so I think now I'm at like 8,000. So after this, after dinner, I'm gonna go
Easy.
knock out the rest. So it's not the worst thing ever, but you definitely have to think. You cannot be reactive with your steps because then you'll get to the end of the day and you're at 4K. You have to think about it, and that's been the big thing for me is that for sure.
It's like that with food too, right? Like, how has it been for like bringing food to work and dealing with that?
Yeah, the good thing about my job is there's not a lot of like they don't bring a lot of stuff. I think if they brought more stuff, it may be a little bit harder. But
Yeah,
I
temptation's hard.
just my yeah, me and my wife meal prep on Sundays. So like this Sunday we just cooked like 10 tilapia fillets, and that'll probably I'm eating two tilapia fillets at lunch, so it'll last us until Wednesday because she's eating two, and then we'll just make more. I mean, it's not hard, and then you just make rice the night before or make potatoes the day of, and you just throw that in, and then I just cut up as many vegetables as I can buy and toss them all in there and skin them and just eat. That's kind of where the idea for the Mediterranean came from. Is I feel like it's so micronutrient dense with a lot of the vegetables and a lot of the stuff like that, and then you throw tilapia in, which is such a good like a golden ratio of protein to calories, and then you mix in some other fish like we're having shrimp tonight,
Oh, yeah.
stuff like that, and then tossing in some oysters. Like I feel like you can get everything you need from it, except maybe the beef liver, which is something I'm going to start introducing because it's never really been something I think I've thought of, but it's been nice, and I'm excited to keep doing it. It tastes so good.
It sounds like you guys are in a great routine. And that's one of the biggest things about the vegetables too, because sometimes people will get all in the metabolism stuff and then they'll think they can't eat vegetables because it has the anti-nutrients. But if you cook them well, then a
Yeah.
lot of those anti-nutrients and issues go away. Even with
Hmm.
beans, if you sprout them and stuff. Beans and lentils, it's a little bit harder, but most of the
I
vegetables,
had
if
a
you cook
question
them the right
about
way,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
hit me.
Chickpeas. What do you think?
Chickpeas,
Yeah, like with
hummus.
hummus.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love hummus, man. Yeah, not ideal for the metabolism. If you if you get them canned, but if you can get them sprouted and they're
Okay.
organic,
Make your
um,
own kind of deal.
yeah, make your own
Okay.
with
We're
olive
talking
oil,
about that. All right.
yeah, tahini and all of that. If you make, I've made my own. I mean, I love the best hummus on the market that I've seen is clean is Abraham's. They have it at Whole Foods. I don't know if they have it near you. I think it's
Yeah,
a
we could go
Jersey.
there. They have those here. I'm gonna go get that for sure.
Yeah, Abraham's hummus. I mean, hummus is great. Like, don't get me wrong,
Mm,
I love it. It's just most of them have sunflower canola oil,
yeah.
which is already a red flag. The chickpeas, I think it's moderation. If you're having a tub of hummus every week, it could slow down your metabolism uh, based on anti-nutrients and kind of uh, goitrogenic effects. But I mean, strawberries technically have the same thing. So it's
Okay.
it's moderation. But if it helps you stay locked in and if you don't have digestive issues and your temperature doesn't go down
Hmm.
and all of that, I don't, yeah, I mean, you live your life. So I don't think it's like you need to
Yeah.
completely avoid it.
Yeah. And
It's so
then
good
the
too. I fucking love
yeah, it's
hummus.
so good. And then like with the pita, we're about to start making sourdough pita, which I'm
Oh,
so
heck yeah.
fired up for. Yeah, it's
Heck
gonna be
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
But it's
I
been
think
nice.
that's one of the biggest things, man, is cooking your own food. I think that's super powerful. You can really make a lot of good food if you just cook it yourself. And I
Hmm.
think the advanced level, which I want to get to eventually, is like being able to grow your own food. Because
Yeah.
I think that so much of this is overcomplicated. You think what's good and bad, but if you make your own pita, if you make your own hummus, you make your own ice cream, you make your own, you can freaking make your own, chicken wings if you fry them in beef tallow or coconut like oil. You can make your own healthy sourdough pizza with good quality
Hmm.
cheese and tomato
We had
sauce. And
that the other night. Oh
yeah,
my
like
gosh.
you can do it. Like it's just
Hmm.
it takes a little bit of effort, but man, is it worth it.
Yeah.
So let's go, man. You're locked in, dude. You and the
Yeah,
wife.
getting dialed. Yeah.
Heck yeah, dude. Um how's your dad's bicep doing, dude? I'm always interested.
It's like all the way better. It's pretty unbelievable. Yeah. He he recovers quickly.
What a
It's pretty
beast, dude.
interesting. I think probably everyone says this about themselves, but like my family recovers very quickly from injuries. It's a very accelerated thing. Like my finger got better really quick
Mhm.
and his bicep got better, but he was taking a stack to get it better. And yeah, it's
I
better.
got
The
I got
only
the
it's
stack.
like you started doing it?
No, I don't have a valid enough injury. I mean, I've tried to use the BPC. I don't have TB 500, but I've tried to use the BPC on my foot. Funny enough, I was just talking to a guy who was he got surgery for the foot thing I was talking about, and I haven't gotten surgery yet, but it's a nerve thing. So I don't know if the BPC helps as much with a nerve
Yeah, I
compared
don't
to like a
know.
reattaching or a
Hmm.
muscular injury. But yeah, what were you saying though?
No, I mean he took a lot of stuff to help and it did. I mean it did its
Yeah.
job. And however much that was peptides and however much was his body, it's hard to tell. But it definitely got better. Now it's just like a range of motion thing. And I was like, "Are you gonna go to physical therapy?" He's like, "I am physical therapy."
This guy's a legend, dude. I was
Yeah.
watching Branch Warren recently, and Warren fell off a horse, I think, and he tore his quad like 6 months before, I think it was the Olympia Arnold, and I think he ended up winning the Arnold after tearing his quad. But he went to
Whoa.
dude, I've been watching a lot of bodybuilding recently, but Branch Warren, beast, Texas guy, trains like a psychopath, and he came back 6 months from a detached quad and won a show. But I remember he said the same thing. He went to PT for like a day or two. They're like, "You want to really come here?" And he's like, "Nah." And he did it at the gym like himself.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember listening to something about. I think Kevin Levrone got really hurt
Horseback.
before a beat. Yeah. Yeah. And he did good. I mean, he never won. He was the best second place ever. But
Bro, he should have won, dude. He's my favorite
yeah,
body. He might be my favorite of all time. I think he is.
his
Almost every time I
YouTube is
lift.
awesome.
you're out there, you need some
Hmm.
inspiration. Kevin Levrone, legend.
So great.
So, dude, this was epic. Any other questions or anything coming up?
I think I'm good for now. I'm excited to get back in the swing of this. It really, like, it's something I look forward to being able to talk about stuff with like a like-minded person about health stuff. So I'm excited. Got a lot more stuff. Got a lot better questions coming too. Now that it's on my mind, my
Okay.
my wheels start turning whenever I get it back going. So there's gonna be some good stuff.
Well, this was a good one. I was in a talkative mood today for some reason, going on rants. But thank you everyone for watching. If you made it to the end, you've got a attention span of steel.
Yeah,
Shout out Brandon Clark. He says that in his videos. But and then if you need coaching or stuff, it's probably in my bio somewhere. But eat good foods, track your food, and enjoy life. So appreciate you, Dylan.
yes, sir. Appreciate y'all.